What's good, YouTube? It's Rico here, and I've got an updated deck profile for Zefra. So, in the past, I don't even know, week, 2 weeks, somewhere in that time frame since I posted the Zefra deck profile, this is probably the one I've been messing around with the most out of the three that I uploaded between Zefra, Draco Metal Zefra, and Magician. Just because, like, it's the most interesting one to me, and, like, it's like the least awkward one out of the three because like those three decks are probably the ones I've been enjoying the most in the format. But like Magician and Draco Metal are both just like kind of awkward to play. You get some like really odd hands like where you don't know what to. But like Zefra, it just feels like everything flows together really well. It doesn't have like an absurdly high ceiling like Magician or anything, but it's got a wide variety of plays that you can pull off and yeah, I just kept messing around with it, and I kept trying a bunch of things. There was a recent post on Pojo of some crazy wombo combo the deck can do if you play like Astrograph and Chronograph Sorcerer, where you can end on like Trigate, Firewall, Ib, Proxy, Vortex Dragon with a Zefra Divine Strike set, and like it's really crazy. And if you ever pull it off, you should like win that game free. But the problem I had with it was that if it got disrupted in any way, the deck kind of was like really fragile and fell apart, and I just didn't want to play it like that. So I stuck with the like more like OCG inspired control build that I posted last like in the last video, and I took it to locals tonight. It was like a small locals, like 3 rounds, 8 players. But the deck performed like amazingly. It was like a lot better than I was expecting it to do. I thought it was going to do like okay, like pretty good, but still like not that great. But like it was fantastic actually. I played against round one. I played against my friend who's a paleo player, and pretty much just like everything else with paleo, it was like I won the die roll and then like set up, and he couldn't beat me, and then game two he set up, I couldn't beat him in game three. Same thing, but like so yeah, and then round two I played against a magician player and I beat him. We both bricked game two, but I feel like Zefra has a much easier time playing through a brick than magician does. And then round three I played my friend who was playing 60 card Light Sworn Zombie Dino, and game one he hard drew grass in his opening hand and I didn't have Ash, so I got like promptly destroyed. And then game two I opened kind of slow, but I still like held on for a while. And then what ultimately killed me was that I had this board set up where I had like Meteor Burst, Odd-Eyes Absolute Dragon, Electromite, and Zephranu with a Dimensional Barrier set, and I swung with everything. And at the end of the battle phase, he evenly matched. So for some reason, I guess it had been so long since I played Dimensional Barrier, I thought that it stopped attacking, and he had an Omega on board, and I had nothing in hand. So he had an Omega banished. So I left Dimensional Barrier out, because I figured, well, if I just called Synchro, he can't attack, but then I remembered that it doesn't stop attacks, so then I died. But yeah. Anyway, so yeah, I'll get into the deck profile. It was amazing. This is easily the most fun I'm having with any deck this format. Like I love Magician, but it feels so awkward, especially without Skullcrobat Joker. And then like again, I love Metal, but like if you don't diagram the deck, like really sucks, honestly. And if it gets like the problem I was having with Draco Metal is that if it gets hit by like Ogre, it like loses. Like it plays fall apart if it gets disrupted. Anyway, let's get into this. So the main, actually, I feel like I actually updated the main quite a bit. So we'll just go through this quickly though. 3 Zefrath is your main primary skill, Zefranu. So like this card's actually like hella annoying to deal with because it's got 2600 defense. So like sitting on this with 9 pillars is a pain in the ass, but also just like sitting on this in general can be annoying for the opponent to deal with. 2 Zefraxi. I was between playing 1 or 2 of this just because I feel like obviously he becomes way better when we get Needle Fiber because he turns anything into a tuner, so him plus any Zefra is Needle Fiber. But I didn't know how important that what making something a tuner was before. But since most of the deck's power plays involve synchro summoning, I think it's important to still play this at 2. I could put it down to 1, but I think I would prefer playing 2. And then the rest of the Zephyrs I play in one of are Zephyr and Pilica, Zefra Wendy, Zefra Thubin, and Zefraxiton. All of these effects came up except for Zefraxiton. I don't think I popped anything. I could have popped something against the Paleo player, but I decided not to. But Zefra Thubin was actually like hella clutch in the match against the Lightsworn player. Just because like just being able to just like pop shit that was like in the way was actually like really nice. Like he had an ultimate Conductor Tyranno out, and I just summoned Zefra Thubin and popped them both, and then like he responded and flipped everything face down, but then like I was able to protect Zefra Thubin with Providence and then just like make plays the following turn. So yeah, it was crazy good. Zefra and Pilica was nice just for like the useful combos that come up with it because I play Dragon Ravine, and then Zefra Wendy is like just good late game and just like getting stuff back to your hand. The nice thing about the Zephyrs, because you run so many ways to search Zephyrs, because you run like 3 Terraforming, 3 Oracles, and 3 Zephyr Providence. Like, even though you run a bunch of 1-of Zephyrs, you're essentially running like 11 copies of them, 10 copies, something like that. It's crazy. And then 3 Darkworm and 2 Gate Zero. I was debating between doing the full package or doing like 1-in-1 like the OCG does, but I think since we don't have Needle Fiber, it's just really important to have like Gate Zero. Not necessarily because Gate Zero doesn't lock you out of Zephyras or out of non-Zefra summons, because like honestly, I don't entirely mind putting a Zefra in scale that's not Zefrath, because most of the monsters I'm pendulum summoning are Zefra monsters anyway. But the real good thing about Darkworm is that it puts a body on the board to make Electromite, but it also puts a scale in your hand. So like it just makes plays a lot easier to do. So yeah. And there's another reason I play 3 Darkworm, which I'll get to very soon. Destrudo, just the other dragon to ditch. And then for hand traps, I upped to Ash Blossom and Ghost Ogre, just after Atlanta and just reevaluating things. It feels like both are just really important right now. Ash isn't that great against Magician, obviously, but it's like fantastic against pretty much everything else, except for like, it's probably okay against Zefra, but still don't see it being particularly amazing against this deck. Ogre is just crazy good against anything Pendulum and like Draco and stuff. Like there are some matchups where Ogre's not good, like Lightsworn and Trickstar, but for the most part it's solid enough. Like they each have like, they're good in a wide variety of matchups, and there's like maybe 1 or 2 where they aren't good, but they're still worth playing. And they're especially good in this deck because they're level 3 tuners, so if you have like actually just any monster, because I have 6s, 9s, and 7s in my extra deck. You can just Pendulum Summon this out, or if you have a Zephyr skill, you can Pendulum Summon everything and then normal summon the Ogre or Ash, and you can make a synchro that way. So if I'm going first, that's a play I do very often. So yeah. I was also considering playing Valor, because one thing I really like about Zefra is that even though it's a Pendulum deck, and even though it's a combo deck, the combos and the engine are so small and compact, because like the main combo in this deck is a 2-card combo. 3 if you count doing it with Ravine, but because you have to ditch a card. But essentially, like, because you can make so much off of like 2 or 3 cards, you can actually get away with running a lot of hand traps, which I feel like Magician honestly can't. Because like I know like a lot of the Magician players who topped at Atlanta were playing the 3 Ash 3 Ogre, but every time I play it's just like seeing a hand trap, even just one, was really annoying in Magician. But like I feel like Zefra doesn't have that problem. I am not opposed to playing 9 hand traps in this deck, because it's definitely possible for this deck to do it. And it gives the deck a really good, like, better going second plays, because that's probably the biggest weakness Zefra has over Magician, is that it's not nearly as good as at breaking established boards. It can still do it, but it's not nearly as good as Magician is at doing it. So I might put Valor in the main. I don't know, I have to play around with it more. That's all the monsters. So for spells, this is probably, oh, well, one monster I did cut from the deck was Armageddon Knight, and that's just because a lot of the times I needed room to put in other stuff like hand traps and what I'm getting to next. And Armageddon Knight, just like, he was there, but he wasn't particularly amazing. It was nice to open and pendulum summon with, but he didn't like set up the game. He was more something to play after I've already established a board, and that's a little different from in the OCG, where Armageddon Knight can actually start up the game himself because he's a 1-card Needle Fiber. So when we get Needle Fiber, I'll probably consider playing Armageddon Knight again, but for now I don't think I need it. Alright, so for spells, 3 Providence, obviously. This card's protection ability is actually fantastic. I love it. It's amazing. Anyway, so yeah, that's obvious. So here's where it gets crazy. My field spell lineup is 3 Oracle of Zefra, 3 Dragon Ravine, 3 Terraforming, and set rotation. So, well, in the last video, I was only playing the 1 Dragon Ravine, and I wasn't playing set rotation. But the more I playtested it, the more, like, Dragon Ravine was so utterly fantastic that I decided to just max it out. And then when I maxed it out, I decided to cut the Shrines and the Foolish Burials because Dragon Ravine did the same thing. And, like, Dragon Ravine is fucking amazing in this deck because, like, it's searchable by terraforming, so it gives you a reason. It gives you a reason to play terraformings because you want to get to Zefra, but you don't want to have like Zefra and terraforming and your only target be Oracle of Zefra because it's hard once per turn. But like Dragon Ravine is fantastic because like it's pretty much a searchable Dragon Shrine, and like the discard cost actually isn't as bad as it would seem in this deck. Like it would seem like you wouldn't want to discard anything, which is why I don't play like Twin Twisters at the side. But like obviously if you draw it with like Dark Worm or Destrudo, it's broken. And obviously because before in like when I was playing Shrine, if I opened a Dark Worm and a Shrine or a Foolish Burial, that wasn't that good. But if I open Ravine and a Dark Worm, that's amazing. Because I just ditched the Dark Worm, get the Destrudo. And Destrudo is like so fucking fantastic in this deck because it makes summoning Vortex Dragon like absolutely free. Like just Ravine has made it a lot easier to see Destrudo. It makes it so that drawing the Dark Worms isn't like is a lot better. It was already not bad drawing Dark Worm, but now it's even better with Ravine. And it's just like it's not even bad to discard the Zefras because if you draw like Ravine, a Zefra, and like Oracle, or like a way to get to Oracle, you can just like ditch the Zefra with Ravine, get Dark Worm, summon Dark Worm, search, and then use the Oracle to search Zefra and Pilica, and then use Zefra and Pilica and revive, and you just go off. I did that a couple times today. It was great. Like I love this ratio. Set rotation is like just essentially a 4th terraforming. Usually you grab Ravine with it because you want to give your opponent an Oracle of Zefra, but I have grabbed Oracle of Zefra instead and given my opponent Dragon Ravine. It doesn't really make a difference, although it would kind of suck if my opponent was also playing Ravine or playing dragons in their deck. So it's kind of a risk. Like usually this is a 4th copy of Dragon Ravine, but it could be a 4th copy of Oracle of Zefra as well. So yeah. I am in love with this ratio, like especially after trying it tonight. Like I was still considering just doing the 1 Ravine and then playing Shrines and Foolishes, but really I think this is best. I would like it's weak to Ogre and Ash, but like if they're ogring my Ravine, a lot of the times I can still make a play. Like if I like Ravine Zefra monster, and like that's still like a play if I also have a way to get to like Zefra and Pelica, because I can still make Electromite out of that. And if they ogre the Ravine, that means they're not going to ogre the Electromite. So it's fantastic. I love that ratio. And then the last spell I play is Emergency Teleport because there's 5 Psychics in the deck now because I made an Ogre. And Ogre, actually I think Ogre was the only thing I Emergency Teleported today, just because like I didn't open with Emergency Teleport that often, or in a situation where I needed it. But twice, 2 or 3 times, I would set Emergency Teleport, and then like when my opponent did something that I would want to Ogre, I would just Emergency Teleport before they activated it, and it won me a game, actually. So, but yeah, also, like, if you draw it late game, you can use the Ghost Ogre and make a synchro play. It's just shit like that. Okay, and so for the traps, I actually upped it to 3. So I played the 9 Pillars, the Divine Strike, and the Zefra War. I wanted to try the Zefra War because like it was always like that card where like, oh, the OCG plays it, but the OCG also has Denglong, so they start 2 traps per turn. But I wanted to try Zefra War and see how it was. This card was fantastic. Like it was amazing. Just being able, it's just like it's not as strong as like a hard negate, but just being able to search out like spot removal, and then you can also like you can pop Oracle of Zefra with it, which is like you essentially don't lose anything, or you can like target one of your Zefra monsters and then protect it with Providence. This card was amazing. It's like, I'm really glad I played it. It was extremely useful. 9 Pillars was obviously search it with Zefra, and that's like a huge amount of pressure on the board. Divine Strike actually wasn't that great. I think I played it once against a Paleo player. But usually, like, if I didn't open Divine Strike, if I opened like 9, if I like, I would, my first search would be 9 Pillars, and then if I searched later in the game, I usually grabbed Zefra War, just because it seemed like the more versatile thing later in the game. Because like the Omni Negates are better on like the first turn, and then afterwards they're not really that amazing unless you have like a really strong board setup, which a lot of the times you don't. So like a lot of the times I just felt like I would rather search Zefra War than Zefra Divine Strike. So moving forward, if I were to fit Valor in the main, because it's 40 cards right now, and if I wanted to up to 42, I would maybe consider cutting the Zefra Divine Strike, because it's usually the last thing I search. And there was even a time where I had already used both of these, but instead of searching Zefra Divine Strike, I just searched another Zefra Providence to search like Oracle of Zefra to get like more monsters going. So I don't know, like, I feel like on paper Divine Strike's really good, but in practice it might not be that great. Like if we still had Danglong, so we were searching if we were like searching the Divine Strike and then using Danglong to search the 9 Pillars, then yeah, it would probably still be fantastic. But without that, I might just do 9 Pillars and Zefra War. I don't know. Also, I don't really particularly like banishing any of my Zefra monsters because aside from Zefranu and Zefraxi, they're all one-ofs, and I don't really want to get rid of any of them. And Zefrath, a lot of the times, just isn't in the extra deck because it stays in scale. And honestly, I'm not entirely wanting to banish Zefrath either, because getting that back with Zefra Wendy is actually, like, really nice. Like, usually, like, I think the one time I used Divine Strike, I banished the Zefrani, it was solely because I knew I had a second one in the deck. I don't know. It might be something to decide for when you're, like, going first, but even then, I'm not sure if I would want to play Divine Strike again. But, yeah. So that's the main deck. It's 40 cards, like I said. Extra deck is 2 Electromite. I don't think I was playing this last time, but I put in Zefra Metaltron. So I put this in because obviously the reasoning of you don't want to give your opponent a zone pointing up, and it's good to have 3 zones pointing down. This card gets bonus points in this deck because it is a Zefra monster. So that's great for 2 reasons. And the first one is that you can protect it with Zefra Providence. And then the second one is that because it is a Zefra monster, you can revive it with Zefra Ampelica. So if it died and then later in the game you play Zefra Ampelica, you can revive Zefra Metaltron, and that is an automatic Link 4, and that is the sole reason I still play Saryuja. Because, like, Saryuja, in any situation where I can make Saryuja, it's either like a massive overextension or I would rather make Borolo Dragon. But just for this scenario, because a lot of the extra deck is toolboxy stuff that doesn't always come up, and this didn't come up tonight, but I could see it coming up in the future. And it came up once when I was playing online, but it was before I thought of this. Is that, like, if the Metaltron dies and I need to, like, set up a Link monster again very quickly, I can just search Zefra Ampelica, revive the Metaltron, and get Saryuja. I don't get the, like, draw Link or, like, special summon effects, but I get 3 scales pointing down, so I can, like, do stuff from there. So, yeah. It's, like, fantastic. Metaltron is amazing in this deck just because of that, and it's just good anyway. So, yeah, Saryuja is mainly just because it's a generic Link 4 that I can make with 2 monsters, and it's not Firewall Dragon, which only points down 1. Borreload, this didn't come up tonight, but there was a situation where I could have made it. For some reason at the time, I didn't think it was the optimal play, but I really should have, because it was, like, stupidly intelligent to make it, and then I didn't. I won that game anyway, though. Decode, this didn't come up, but I feel like if I cut it, it will, so, yeah. Underclock Taker, I was not expecting this to come up, but it did. I put this in case I get, like, Reapered. This deck can actually play without Electromite. There were a couple of games where I didn't summon Electromite until, like, really late in the game, but I was still able to make plays, which is really nice. So I'm not, like, too afraid of getting Reapered, but if it happens, I have Underclock Taker as a backup, and then I can, like, summon something from the extra deck and make Metaltron from there. So, like, I guess that would be one reason to play Divine Strike is if I got Reapered and then I had to like use a Zefra and then get rid of it. But honestly, at the same time, I think I would just sit on the 9 Pillars Zefra anyway. But the reason I made Underclock Taker is because another card I was testing was Ancient Fairy Dragon. I didn't think this card was going to be that great because it's not really always that useful to pop a field spell and search another one. But it did come up once where I was making a play and I realized I didn't have Gate 0 in scale to like make Meteor Bursts. So when I went for a level 7 Synchro, I was like, well, I'll just make Ancient Fairy Dragon, pop the Ravine, grab an Oracle of Zefra, and just sit on it. So I sat on this, Zefra and 9 Pillars, and it was actually like a huge-ass wall that my opponent had I had a hard time dealing with. And then I used the Ancient Fairy and the Zefra to make Underclock Taker. So these both came up when I wasn't expecting it, so I'm actually kind of glad I played them, and I'll probably keep playing them. I also feel like there's just going to be that one cute time where my opponent's playing a field deck with a field spell, and I'm just going to Ancient Fairy to pop it and put Oracle of Zefra in my hand. I can just see that happening. Alright, and then for the other Synchros, I played Black Rose. There were situations where it came up, but it always got stopped before it happened, just because like they would it was against the Dino guy, so you just conduct a Tyranno with my materials. But the threat of it is just like relevant enough. Yazi, I made this once, and that was solely because it couldn't be targeted. I don't think I didn't use its pop effect, and summoning a Yangzing from extra from deck isn't that amazing right now. It's a lot better when we get Needle Fiber. Metaphys Horus. This didn't come up tonight, but when I've been testing the deck online, it has come up a bunch of times. It's great because it's a big eye, more or less, or like a mind control, just that your opponent chooses one you do. You can negate any card permanently, so like if your opponent has like a scale or something that you don't want to be active, or if they have like Spiral Resort, you can just permanently negate it, and then you can just take the Horus and whatever you take, and then like one or two other monsters and make Borreload Dragon. And that's the play I could have made today, where I had 3 level 3s and one of them was a tuner, and I could have made Metaphys Horus. They had Borreloaded me and taken my Yazi, so he probably would have given me the Yazi back, and then from there I could have used the Yazi, the last thing, the last Pendulum monster, and Electromite to make Borreload and take their Borreload. I don't know why I didn't do that. Instead, I thought it would be swag as fuck to make Trishula, and this helped because I ripped shit out of their hand. But I wasn't able to swing over my own Yazi because he Borreloaded and dropped Trishula to 22. But I wouldn't stop playing Trishula just because she is like really savage when she gets dropped. It's just that like the 2 times where I've been able to make Trishula Horus was just like better in the scenario. But I do still really like Trishula, so I think I will keep playing her. And then Meteor Burst, Absolute, Vortex. It's really easy to make this card, and it turns into this card, it turns into this card. And if you do it, there's been a bunch of times where I've made them after the first turn, and then I just make Absolute, I swing to revive Meteor Burst, and then I make Vortex Dragon. So yeah. There really isn't a lot I would change in the extra deck. Like, if I wanted to play Reaper targets, like in the main, I would probably cut Decode and Trishula, but I think I like it like this. I'm not entirely sure that I could put in like an ABC and like a Spiral Double Helix or something. So yeah. For side deck, I have 3 Veilers in here now. I didn't have them while I was playing in the tournament. Instead, it was a 3rd Cyclone. I'm only playing 2. And then it was an ABC and a Spiral Double Helix. Because I was expecting someone might be playing ABC, and I saw that somebody was playing Spiral. And if I were to go to regional, that would probably be the 2 targets I played. I considered playing Totally Awesome, but I didn't think I needed it, and I didn't. So yeah. Veiler is good enough. Veiler is so good right now, in my opinion, that I still am seriously considering maining this. And if I were to do that, I would put the Cyclone and the 2 Reaper targets back in. Although when it comes out, I would also obviously put Called by the Grave in. 2 Gamma Seal. I honestly really don't like kaijus. I understand why they're so good at dealing with threats, but I don't like giving my opponent a big monster, and you don't gain any advantage out of it. In fact, it's technically a -1 because you just lose a card and your opponent breaks even. But I felt like I had to play these because I can't think of a way the deck reliably outs Masterpiece aside from if it's spell immune. You just grab Zefra Warren. like kill it that way. That's the only way I can think of killing Masterpiece. So I decided that Gamma Seal was a good idea. I was also playing Dark-Haul and Raigeki in here, but I just cut them because I felt like they were relevant in only Magician, but against Magician I can also play the Kaijus, even though I don't like to. And also Magician, there's like all the hand traps. 2 Reaper, obviously for like the mirror and for anything playing Electromite. During the event, it was also for double Helix and for ABC, and if I were to, like, if I move the Veilers to the main, I'll put those back in. I only played 2 Reaper just because it feels like that card that you never, like, you want to see the first one, you don't necessarily want to see the second one, so, like, I don't want to clog on it. So I think 2 is a good ratio. And then 2 Cyclones, it was 3. I'll probably bump it back up to 3 if I move Veiler to the main, simply because this deck doesn't have it like any way to reliably out anti-spell like Magician does. Like, Magician can purple poison. So like I think Cosmic Cyclone is necessary just to deal with floodgates like that. And then 3 Barriers is free against like anything that's reliant on a specific summoning condition. I put it in against Lightsworn because during the event I didn't have Effect Veiler. It wasn't that good, which is part of why I decided to put Effect Veiler in. Because Effect Veiler would be great against Lightsworn, but this is still like really broken in the matchups where it's really good. And then Evenly Matched, surprisingly not as good in a lot of matchups as I was expecting, but it's still really broken in the right matchups, so I would still keep it. It's not that great against Magician, but it's not that good against Lightsworn, but it's good against like Frog, Spiral. I would argue it's good against Trickstar. And I learned it was pretty good against Zefra, so yeah. And that's the side deck, so moving forward, I would probably move the Veilers to the main, probably consider cutting Divine Strike, and then for the slots in the side deck, I would make it a Cyclone and 2 Reaper targets. But yeah, that's the deck. It's fantastic. I really am enjoying it. I think it's got a lot of versatility to it. It's got a lot of plays. I think it does not get enough credit. I actually saw a Reddit comment earlier today, so you know where this is going, where it was like one of the like OCG meta updates, and someone was like, why is Zefra so good in the OCG but so bad in the TCG? And I was like, bro, hold my beer. So like, I don't know, I love this deck. I think it's really fun. I'm definitely going to play around with this more. I might take it to a regional, honestly, just because I'm enjoying this way more than I've been enjoying like Magician or Draco or Trickstar or whatever else is in this format. Like, they're like not the worst to play, but Zefra is just so much fun. So I'm just going to mess around with this more. But yeah, thanks for watching YouTube, and I'll see you next time. Deuces.